Hello and welcome back to the Conversational Hypnosis Academy. It's Scott Jansen here again. I want to applaud you for coming back to session 2 of our hypnosis Q&A. Now, if you haven't listened to the first one, we really recommend that you do. And if you have, we really hope that you took some vital clues and hints away that you can start to use on a regular basis, whether you're doing interventions as a therapist, you're a coach, or an NLP practitioner. Something you can take away to transform the way that you view hypnosis and how you can start using hypnosis in a more professional and ethical way. So with that in mind, let's jump into the next 6 questions that we got recently that I want to express our opinions and our thoughts to further push you into those realms of professionalism. So the first question we have is, can you discuss more about the importance of client safety? Now, this question alone should be one of the most important questions you ask yourself as an ethical hypnotist. Your client safety is your utmost priority. Regardless of what you're seeing your client for, how much you're getting paid for the session, where you are in regards to how many clients you're seeing a week, or where you are in your own expertise, your client safety needs to be number one. The reason your client safety is so important is because of this one very factor. When we put clients into more of an unconscious state, anything can happen. It's often discussed that hypnosis is very safe and it's a way to transform the way people view the world. And this is very true. But above all else, we need to understand that anything can happen in hypnosis. So ideally, we are pushing our clients into a safe trance. We are helping them navigate more of the safety boundaries of this hypnotic trance. But we need to understand something about the unconscious mind. Is that inside the unconscious itself, there's not just positive experiences. The unconscious role is to suppress negative experiences and less than positive outcomes. So we have to understand that these can trigger at any time and turn what could be a very, very safe and enjoyable session at the drop of a hat could turn rather painful and anything but positive. So we need to stay on alert. We need to pay attention to our clients. And we can use something called a priming sequence, which essentially reinforces safety for our clients. So when you're discussing the therapy with your client, when you're doing the induction, even when you're doing your intake form, we just want to constantly remind our client that they will be safe, that you're there to look after them, you're there to help them solve their own issues and have fun and learn about themselves along the way. Repeating the word safe, repeating the words that they can feel good about the experience should be something even used more than the techniques themselves. And if you prime completely and you almost coat this trance that they're going into with safety, with experiences, with fun, with learning, you can rest assured that their experience will be safe. Now, we have to remember as well that once you do it once or twice, we still need to be on alert. We can't take it for granted that it's going to work 100% of the time, which is why we have ad reaction drills, which is why we run our students and also the people that we teach through safety experiences for themselves so they can learn to navigate these realms of more unconscious for themselves and for their client. The next question we have is, when do I start the therapy? This is a very common question that we get very, very regularly. Now, the easiest way to break this down, we could spend a whole session on itself discussing this as an idea, but to break down it all into a simple understanding, your entire interaction, the entire context of your interaction is the therapy. The very fact that your client's coming to see you as a therapist takes a lot of motivation. For the fact they're leaving the safety of their own house, the safety of the people around them, to come and talk about their most deepest, darkest issues in some places to a complete stranger, takes motivation, it takes leverage. So we can view this as the therapy has already started. The therapy doesn't start when you have done the induction. The therapy doesn't start when you've started the quote-unquote therapy. The whole thing needs to be therapeutic. So how do we make sure the whole thing is therapeutic? This is where you coming into the session knowing that you have something in mind, which is to keep your client safe, and you're there to help. That therapeutic underlying thought process will be attributed unconscious to your client's unconscious. So if you're feeling positive about the experience as a therapist, you're feeling like you really want to help this person, you care for them, you have their well-being at heart, this creates a therapeutic context where your client will feel more open to express their issue rather than more closed down. So what we try and tell the people that we train, if you're looking at this style of hypnosis, is to treat the whole thing as therapy. The whole thing blends together with the induction. everything happens at the same time. We don't want to have the first part as the induction, the second part as the therapy, the third part of testing, the fourth part of repeating the process. It's all just one long conversation. Now, this is in the context of conversational hypnosis. More classical hypnosis has a different way to view it. But even if you break down the very classical way, these underlying principles still exist. We want to make the whole interaction complete without dividing the session into segments. Because when we start dividing the sessions into segments, we miss all the wonderful transformational cues along the way. And especially when you're looking at more unconscious moments, these are things that we follow as a conversational hypnotist, and we can still see these unconscious moments happening during the therapy stage. So if we're seeing these unconscious moments, we know that something is occurring unconsciously, and we can almost assume that it must be something therapeutic. But as to answer the question before, we still have to make sure it's safe. We have to make sure these unconscious moments are safe and our clients are enjoying their experience. The next question we have is, I think, very important. What's the best way to get my first client? Now, there's many ways and many schools of thought to do this. As a therapist, if you're running a business, it's always good to have in the background some sort of business expertise or understanding how to run a full-time business. But at the same time, conversational hypnosis excels in this. You might be thinking, well, how does that work? We use conversation to transform people's unconscious. So if you're interacting with people at work, or you're more of a social butterfly who tends to get out a lot and talk to a lot of different people, this is a great opportunity not to push your power onto people, but start a discussion where maybe you can lead the discussion into what you do as a therapist. Maybe that you use hypnosis, you help people transform their lives, and this is a great conversation starter. And it's at this point where you can start to show people the power of hypnosis. And I will repeat that. Instead of telling people what you do, start to show them the power of their unconscious. Show them how easy it is for them to go into trance. Now, keeping it ethical and professional, we don't want to force our opinions on people. We don't want to force our hypnotic power onto people. We might need to ask permission. Are you happy to try something? I can show you how powerful your unconscious mind is. And it's these experiences that people walk away with and remember for a lifetime. Telling someone about what you do, your values, your mission statement, and what you do as a hypnotist is great, but it's like any conversation. Do you remember every conversation you have with a total stranger if you're meeting someone for the first time? Probably not. But you may remember something if they take you through an experience, like tell you a story about a holiday, or tell you something that you're very interested in. Your client's experience will navigate how far they remember you for. So let's say you show someone, you might do a little bit of hypnotic phenomena or tell them a hypnotic story where you can see the unconscious moments. It could be days and weeks where they're still talking about they met this wonderful person and they're a therapist and they did all this cool, weird, unique stuff while they were talking to you. And this is a great thing because it means that has implanted or seeded the suggestion of what you do. And we can assume from this, you could start getting clients from this. You may even find it as applicable to find out someone's issue and let them know, I can show you a little bit about hypnosis, but if you want to get rid of this issue, I could help you with this. This is what I do. These are my prices. These are the things. As long as there's a discussion, you have the best opportunity to start looking for clients and start to get your first client as per your business. The next question we have is, what is the best hypnotic technique to use? Now, we'll stop this train of thought immediately. There is no one way to do things. There is no one better than the other. What tends to happen is there are certain things that can be used at different times that are better than most. But all in all, hypnosis occurs. If we look at hypnosis occurring naturally, we have techniques to navigate this naturalness. The techniques that, if you navigate the internet and you look for what I think is amusing, the one technique that fixes everything, the A to Z technique. And then you quickly realize that if you follow those steps, at some point it breaks down. All clients have different motivation. All clients have different leverage. All clients have different personalities, likes, dislikes, outcomes, theories, ideas. Now, if you try and box all those into the one box, you'll find it gets very confusing, which means that one technique for smoking will not work for the next person. One technique for anxiety or weight loss may not work for the next person. So we need to drop the idea of techniques and understand that everybody's different. And this is the rule of flexibility. We need to stay flexible as a hypnotist. That's why we learn multiple ways to do the same thing. All our techniques and strategies all aim for the same thing, which is trance and a therapeutic outcome. the idea of having one specific technique that does the A to Z of all issues, all problems, and all challenges, you should be able to think clearly enough about it and think, well, that's impossible. If everybody had the same personality and leverage and motivation, these techniques would shine. But unfortunately, everybody's different. Everyone has their own theories about hypnosis. Everyone has their own ideas of how they want to break through their own issues. And we need to put these into place when seeing individuals. So to answer that question, what is the best hypnotic technique? They are all fantastic, but they're all as good as they're not. Meaning that at some point, even the best techniques, even the best therapists will struggle at some point. The next question is, what are your thoughts on rapid inductions for clients? So if you're not familiar with a rapid induction, this is where we use either shock or a bit of unconscious leverage to put a client into an instant hypnotic trance within seconds. Now, if you think more of a stage show, this is ratifying the idea of the instant induction. Now, for therapy, if you've got a client coming into your office and you need to save on time, rapid inductions are fantastic. But you need to make sure that your client is willing to experience a rapid induction, because they do use shock. So it might be getting them to look at something, then instantly doing something that's going to shock their amygdala into the fight or flight response. And it's that thought process that gets stopped that you can put the induction to sleep or something like that. And if you're not too familiar with it, jump onto YouTube and find more of a stage show and see how they do it. We have to make sure on an ethical and professional standpoint that your client is willing to go through that. You don't want to shock or scare your client for the sake of an induction, because there are more gentle, easier, and more appropriate ways to do things. So again, depending on your clients, if they say, yes, I'm happy to do it, brilliant. You can do things in seconds instead of 10, 15, 20 minutes, where some inductions take as far as time to complete. The instant induction itself has to be suited for that client. You probably don't want to be doing a rapid induction for an elderly client, 50s, 60s, and 70s, because it might have a different outcome than you're expecting. The last question number 6, can you give me some hints on making sure my smoking clients have quit? Excellent question. This is where testing comes into it. Testing is really, really important to not only stop you having to do multiple sessions for the same issue, which becomes pointless and starts to waste people's times at that point. We want to make sure that our client leaves a success. Now, it won't always happen. We're not always going to get it. And we need to test in various scenarios. We need to test their environment that they're going home to. We need to test their attitude and their new personality attitude and make sure that fits in their world. We also need to test emotions. How do they feel about not having to smoke again, if this was just in regards to smoking? But it could be for anything. We have to make sure that we test our clients so they can prove to us that they are fixed, that they're good to go, and they're good to go home and live their life without smoking or the anxiety or the weight issues. Now, there's very many ways to do this. This is being that we are on a time constraint. We don't have the time to run you through a testing cycle and show you what to do. The idea behind it is to make sure you leave no stone unturned. So if a client tends to smoke at a pub, you want to make sure that when you're asking them if they're going to smoke at a pub, that you think of every scenario of where they could be in a pub. You need to think of scenarios or emotions they may be feeling that they haven't revealed to you yet. So this can be a little bit tricky at the start, but being very, very creative in regards to what you can ask them. Will they smoke here? How will they feel if this happens? If they're stressed at work, will they smoke then? All of these things come into play. And what you're looking for is your client to, what I call, butt themselves. When it sounds like this, they say, yeah, I'm not going to smoke at the pub. I'm not going to smoke in the car, but I think I may have one cigarette if my boss yells at me if I'm stressed out. And it's that but you need to take care of. That's essentially the unconscious mind saying, hey, you've just missed this. Now, what do you do once they have tested it and failed the test, so to speak? Well, there's many ways to play with that. We need to either repeat the same process, or we just need to reframe the whole thing. It depends on the client, depends on their personality, and it also depends on how heavy the emotion was that was running from the way they have butted themselves in regards to stopping smoking. Now, this is not just for smoking. It's used for weight loss. It's used for anxiety. And really remarkable hypnotists will spend a lot of time throughout the whole process, not just done at the end, testing and retesting over and over and over and over, essentially trying to break the good work that they've done. Now, you might be thinking, well, why would I try and make my client fail if I've done all this good work? Well, the idea is simple. If our client fails in front of us and the session breaks down in front of us, it is in front of us, so we can help. We don't want this to break down days later when they're by themselves and they've got no one to help or rely on. And this is where we come into play. So That is the 6 questions we have for today. Hopefully they've helped. Again, we'll be repeating this process as many times as we feel we need to answer these questions. Being that we get a lot of questions, if you have sent us a question through, please don't think we have ignored it. We just put a small list together every day to try and cover the majority. But a lot of the questions that get repeated over and over, we want to pick out the most important to help you navigate into a more professional hypnotist. And so you can get a clearer understanding of what can be done, what should be done, and what almost becomes a waste of time at that point. So again, thank you for tuning in. This is Scott Jansen from the Conversational Hypnosis Academy. If you do have a question for us, please drop us a line or email us at info@conversationalhypnosisacademy.com, and we will make sure we answer your question to the utmost extent to help you learn more about hypnosis if you're a newcomer or you have an expertise behind you, make things easier for you so you can start to enjoy the trances, enjoy the experience that you have as a hypnotist. So until next time, we will see you then. Enjoy yourself, enjoy your new tips and tricks, and we hope to see you on the next one. Bye for now.